Hey, did you hear? Barack Obama and his wife, Michelle Obama, actually threw their endorsement behind Kamala Harris. And they announced it about 4 or 5 o'clock this morning. He's already got 59, almost 60 million views on his post. Let's take a listen.
Kamala.
Hello. Hi.
Hey there.
Oh, hi. You're both together. Oh, it's good to hear you both.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
You damn right we are, Kamala. We are going to have so much fun with this, toying with the economy of Americans, giving more bombs and funds to countries that don't deserve it, helping Israel destroy Hamas. Man, it is going to be so fun. And of course, as predicted, the people on the other side of lamestream media, which is let's call them the Democrat propagandists, they couldn't be more pleased. Listen.
And there it is. Kamala Harris gets the endorsement from Barack and Michelle Obama, two of, if not the most popular figures in the Democratic Party.
So popular. God, I'm so proud of these guys. Go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
When I was watching this, because my job is to combat disinformation from the right.
Oh yeah, just combat disinformation from the right. Don't go out of your way to combat any disinformation from the left. We love you, Brian. You're so great.
I immediately thought back to the New York Post headline from July 24th. Obama doesn't believe Kamala Harris can beat Trump, which is why he hasn't endorsed her. Sources. Now, just for fun, I want you to take a look at what Kamala was wearing in this video. Okay. Tan suit, white shirt, gold necklace. And now take a look at this event from July 24th in Indianapolis.
Because restoring freedoms is what political parasites are all about.
So clearly, the Obama endorsement happened on July 24th, very likely.
Clearly, even though the beige kind of looked like yellow to me. But let's just give him this. Let's give him this. Let's give Brian this. It'll make him feel wonderful.
Before this New York Post story was even published on July 24th, which leads me to wonder if the authors, Isabel Vincent and John Levine, knew that they were peddling straight nonsense, or if their quote-unquote sources are just that bad. Something tells me it's the former, although I suppose that when you work for the New York Post, shame is kind of already out of the equation, isn't it?
Well, shame is out of the equation for everybody who has a periodical that actually bows its knee to one side or another, which is every single periodical. You've got CNN always giving deference to the left, Fox always giving deference to the right. Whenever you have a mainstream news source, whether it's televised or in print, that is going to have a bias toward one political party or the other, can you really expect news? Can you really expect not to be lied to? Barack Obama says, earlier this week, Michelle and I called our friend Kamala Harris. We told her we think she'll make a fantastic president of the United States and that she has our full support. At this critical moment for our country, we're going to do everything we can to make sure she wins. Now let's talk about a little slice of hypocrisy while we're on this Democrat springboard, shall we? Listen to this. Now, I don't personally have anything against what Rashida Tlaib said or did during the Netanyahu speech, which was completely ridiculous in Congress. It was so ridiculous. Check out my last couple videos. The first one I dealt with, there's 22 solid minutes of standing ovation for Netanyahu, President Netanyahu, or in the words of Mike Johnson, his excellency. Listen to what, so I don't have a problem with her saying guilty of genocide and war criminal on the other side. No problem, because that's true, okay? Truth is truth no matter who tells it. And truth fears no scrutiny. She says, I will never back down in speaking truth to power. This is utter BS. Rashida Tlaib is just as much your enemy as Benjamin Netanyahu or Mike Johnson or J.D. Vance or Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Harris. Listen to this. The apartheid government of Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians. I think pretty much anybody who has eyes to see understands that. Palestinians will not be erased. Solidarity with all those outside these walls in the streets protesting and exercising their right to dissent. And Jake Shields says, I disagree with you on most issues, but you are correct here and I appreciate your bravery. This is not bravery. This is hypocrisy. She is a supporter of a person who supports the genocide going on in Gaza. And who is that? Joe Biden. Now she's a supporter of somebody who supports the genocide in Gaza, giving funds and weaponry to Israel so that they can do the dastardly deed. She's supporting Harris. So when you say that you're against a war criminal, but you support the people who support the war criminal, you are a freaking hypocrite. And this is what we see time and time again. Let me show you what a little bit of hypocrisy coming out of Bernie Sanders. Listen to this. What's fascinating to me is that people do not see this. They will look at Bernie Sanders and they'll go, oh yeah, he's definitely against the genocide in Gaza, while he promotes and supports and fully backs the people who are supporting the people doing the genocide in Gaza. Listen to this hypocrisy.
Do you think you'll eventually come around to endorsing her? I mean, are you leaning that way?
I am going to
have these conversations?
Caitlin,
Talking about endorsing Harris for the presidency.
and I am going to do everything I can to make sure that she wins. But
I'm going to make sure that Kamala, who's in good with Netanyahu, who's in good with Biden, who's in good with Trump, I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that she, the supporter of Israel who's committing the genocide against Gaza, is the next president of the United States. That, if that's not hypocrisy, then there's no such thing as hypocrisy.
I just want to hope that in the next few days and weeks, we can make sure that we put together a campaign that focuses on the needs of working class. So make no mistake about it, I'm with her. And I'm going to do everything that they can, that I can, that the progressive movement can, to make sure that she is the next president.
Then don't you dare tell one single American that you are against the genocide in Gaza, Bernie Sanders, Rashida Tlaib, you frickin' hypocrites. If you were truly against the genocide, then you would be against the spark that enables the fire of genocide. And that is, you would not support a president or Congress or any law that would continue to support and fund and arm the people who are committing the genocide. You know what? Let me just remind you of something. There's something back in the 1940s called the Smith-Mundt Act. And what it sought to do was to make sure that the propaganda coming out of the State Department never landed domestically, that it would only stay international, and that propaganda by the State Department would never reach the ears and the eyes of Americans. Well, in 2012, something very interesting happened. They modernized the Smith-Mundt Act and called it the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012. So that became a part of the National Defense Authorization Act, which was already also signed by Obama, which basically you could be sent to prison under the NDAA without charge, without trial, without due process of law. But this part, the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of 2012, was also signed by Obama. And the modernization part basically said that the State Department can now unleash massive propaganda on American soil. It's not just for international viewers. Now we're going to subject our own people to heavy doses of statist propaganda. People like Bernie Sanders and all the Democrats supported somebody like Barack Obama. But listen to this. There's more.
Senator Sanders, you're on Capitol Hill right now. Obviously, earlier, Prime Minister Netanyahu addressed Congress. You did not attend that speech. You said yesterday it was the first time that you believed a war criminal, as you put it, had been invited to address the U.S. Congress. In that speech, he referenced the protesters who were outside the Capitol. There were thousands of them as Tehran's useful idiots. Yeah. What was your takeaway from what you heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
A war criminal, you say? So Bernie Sanders is actually saying, and we'll hear him, just stay tuned because I got a couple clips from Bernie, saying that he truly believes that Netanyahu is a war criminal who should be charged, who should be tried, and who should be jailed. And yet Bernie Sanders is a strong, or was a strong supporter of Biden, and is now going to make sure he does everything that he can to make sure that Harris, who's also going to fund the war machine in Israel so that there can be more of a genocide that happens in Gaza, he's going to support that while he's saying that he's against a war criminal. Listen to this.
Takeaway is that he came a very long distance from Jerusalem to Washington, D.C. to give a campaign speech for the folks back in Israel. This is a guy who some 70% of the people in Israel in the last poll that was taken want to resign. So he came here and he got a good reception from the Republicans. But, it's not just me who thinks he is a war criminal. This is what the International Criminal Court has determined. They have determined what
the ICC, the International Criminal Court, the very court that Netanyahu was saying, oh, they're lying about you. I'm not a war criminal. Israel's not the bad guy. The bad guys are the people who are propagating the idea that Israel and me are war criminals.
I believe to be true, that his policies are resulting in the starvation of tens and tens of thousands of children and Palestinians.
But you're still going to support Harris, who supports the people who are doing the genocide, you freaking hypocrite.
And that is a war crime. And he, along with Simwa, the leader of Hamas, has been charged with being war criminals. And in my view, they both are.
So in Bernie Sanders' view, the guy that Harris and Biden bowed down to is a war criminal, but he's still going to support, he did support Biden, and now he's going to support Harris. But wait, there's more. Listen to Bernie on this. I mean, he, in no uncertain terms, he tells you exactly what he thinks of Netanyahu.
No, Mr. Netanyahu, it is not anti-Semitic or pro-Hamas to point out that in a little over 6 months, your extremist government has killed 34,000 Palestinians and wounded more than 78,000, 70% of whom are women and children.
He sounds pretty resolute. It really sounds like Bernie's against genocide.
It is not anti-Semitic to point out that your bombing has completely destroyed more than 221,000 housing units in Gaza, leaving more than 1 million people homeless, almost half the population.
Okay, I'm just going to fast forward to this at the end. He just completely rails on Netanyahu. I'm just going to show you the very end of this, and then we're going to go to a short interview with CIA asset Anderson Pupa.
Do not insult the intelligence of the American people by attempting to distract us from the immoral and illegal war policies of your extremist and racist government.
And the context in which he says that is Netanyahu's basically saying, if you speak against the Israeli government, you're an anti-Semite. And Bernie Sanders rightly says, don't try to distract us with that nonsense. Just because we're pointing out the truth that you're the purveyor of a massive genocide that's killing tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people, don't try to distract us or deter us from going after you, buddy, Mr. Criminal.
Do not use anti-Semitism to deflect attention
there you go.
From the criminal indictment you are facing in the Israeli courts.
Now here he is with CNN's CIA asset, Anderson Pupa.
Vice President Harris, though, has now been endorsed by at least 41 Democratic senators, 186 Democratic representatives, 23 Democratic governors. You've yet to endorse her. You'd previously supported President Biden staying in the race. Will you? What's going to take for you to endorse the vice president?
Well, I'm sure that I will, but I want to just chat with her, and I want to make sure. Look,
I'm sure that I will endorse the person who's going to empower the person I call a criminal who should be in jail right now, fuel and continue with a mass genocide in Gaza. You freaking hypocrite.
this is a consequential campaign. We have to make sure that we elect the vice president. Kamala Harris is going to be the candidate, and I will do everything I can to make sure that Trump is defeated and that she is elected.
Make sure that Harris, the person who is going to make sure that she continues to fund and arm the genocidal maniac, we're going to make sure that she becomes president. This is how they play the left versus right paradigm card, because while Rashida Tlaib is right that this person who Bernie Sanders rightly pointed out is guilty of genocide and is a war criminal, because that's what the other side of her sign says. You know, people get embroiled in this, and they're so blinded with their hatred, and they're so skewed in their perception of the left versus right paradigm lie. They're like, you're a disgrace in the chamber of the American people. First of all, Congress is not the chamber of the American people. It's the chamber of AIPAC. Look it up. See how many millions of dollars AIPAC pumps into Congress and how many congressional members that they own. It's not the American people's chamber. It's been taken over long ago. So I just said, I agree. Tlaib is a hypocritical disgrace. Her sign is correct, though. But she's just there for a photo op, and that's all Tlaib is there for. Because if you were truly against genocide, then you couldn't possibly cast your vote for Harris. But he's the lesser of two evil. What's right? We got to get rid of the existential threat, Trump. Don't give me any of your excuses. You voted for this person. You knew this person was for genocide. Don't hold up your sign saying you're against genocide and you think these people are a war criminal and you're so against it when you're going to go ahead and cast your vote of support for the people who fund that genocide. I said, regardless, what about the disgrace of applauding a war criminal who just demanded Americans get off their asses and fast track more death machines? And that is exactly what Netanyahu did. He's like, hey, I appreciate the fact that you're giving us death machines, but you need to step it up. Come on. And if you missed that, check out you got to look at the last video where I go over in detail and hit the highlights of Netanyahu's ridiculous speech and Congress's ridiculous reaction. This person right here says, we wonder why our babies are starving in America, why we have a corrupt healthcare system, why we lack clean food, air, and water. Look at our Congress. Look at them shower a man who has starved Gaza, bombed hospitals, and murdered tens of thousands of people. I agree with that, but this person's a hypocrite as well. And then this person says, who has been reposted in a repost by Rashida Tlaib, she says, the U.S. will lecture the world about international law and order, then greet a genocidal war criminal with ovation and applause. This is U.S. hypocrisy on full display. And I completely agree. This is hypocrisy, but it's almost like double and triple dog hypocrisy. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell notification icon. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my private email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. Join me at High Impact Flix on Twitter, now known as X. If you want to support the channel further, grab a brand new hard-hitting shirt. This is an original design right here. It's called Stop the Pignorance. Become a channel member, but more importantly, understand that the price of freedom is now and will always be eternal vigilance. And indifference to this notion is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. I got an idea. Let's stop our oppression and let's start today. I'll see you in the next video.